Chosen one, lock your attention on this message right now. That quiet feeling you've been carrying, the one that tells you something is about to shift. Stop dismissing it, because what is coming is not going to announce itself. There will be no warning, no countdown, no dramatic sign in the sky. It will simply arrive, and when it does, everything changes in a single moment. The enemy is working overtime right now for one reason, and one reason only. He knows what is about to walk into your life, and he cannot stop it. So instead, he is trying to stop you. He is trying to keep you distracted, exhausted, and doubting yourself just long enough to make you miss the moment when it arrives. But you are not going to miss it. Not today. It all ends this week. The waiting, the wondering, the silence that has stretched so long, it started to feel permanent. But hear this clearly. It is not ending because of timing or luck. It is ending because of what you have already done. Because of the prayers you prayed when no one was watching. Because of the ground you held when everything in you wanted to let go. Think back to that moment this week when you almost said something you would have regretted. When a situation came at you without warning and every part of you wanted to react, wanted to defend yourself, wanted to explain. But something held you back. You stayed quiet. You walked away. You let it go. You thought that was weakness. You thought that silence cost you something. But I am here to tell you that silence was a weapon. That moment of restraint was not you losing ground. That was you signing the final document. That was the act that sealed the enemy's removal from your situation. You did not ruin anything. You finished everything. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment that was scheduled before the foundations of the earth were laid, and you are sitting here at exactly the right second for exactly the right reason. Do not scroll away. Do not let this play in the background while you do something else. Your future self is asking you to be present for this, because if you disconnect now, you will leave before the verdict is read over your life. In the next few minutes, I am going to give you the legal decree that cancels every assignment the enemy has launched against what is coming to you. I am going to show you the exact moment this week where you unknowingly activated your breakthrough without even realizing it. And at the end, I am going to give you the declaration that seals this open door shut, so that nothing the enemy tries can reverse what God has already set in motion. Stay until the very last second. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere around you has not just been still, it has been heavy, like pressure sitting on your chest that you cannot explain and cannot shake, like the silence before something massive arrives. Maybe you have been moving through your days this week, feeling like you are one step behind, like everyone around you is operating in normal time, and you are wading through something thick and invisible. Or maybe you woke up at 3 in the morning and just lay there in the dark, heart beating a little too fast, with a feeling you could not name but could not ignore. You feel like you are suspended, like you are standing in a gap between the life that was and the life that was promised, and you cannot see either shore from where you are standing. And in that gap, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. He has been telling you that what is coming has been delayed because of you. He has been replaying a moment in your mind over and over again. That moment when you pulled back, when you went quiet, when you stopped pushing and simply let something go. And he has been labeling that moment as your greatest mistake. He has been telling you that your silence, your stillness, your refusal to fight back cost you the very thing you have been believing for. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Nahum 1:9 declares, "What do you conspire against the Lord? He will make an utter end of it. Affliction shall not rise up the second time." Hear that. Affliction shall not rise up the second time. The enemy wants you to believe you are in a cycle. He wants you to believe the clock has been reset and you are beginning again from the start. He wants that lie to become so loud in your mind that you stop expecting what is coming. But that is not a cycle you are in. That is a conclusion. The heaviness you feel is not punishment pressing down on you. It is finality. It is the weight of something ending so completely that it can never return. It is the last tension in a cord that is one breath away from snapping. What you called your moment of failure was not failure at all. It was the final move. It was the strategy heaven had been building toward the entire time. You did not disqualify yourself. You did not delay the blessing. You did not reset what God set in motion. You completed it, and they are coming, with no warning, with no announcement, with no time to prepare. But you do not need to prepare. You are already ready. You have already done the work. The only thing left to do is receive. And now that you know you are ready, now that the truth has landed that you have already completed the final move, here is what shifts next. Because readiness is not passive. Readiness is not sitting quietly with your hands folded, waiting for heaven to drop something at your feet. Readiness is an active spiritual posture. It is the decision to stop rehearsing the delay and start operating from the reality of what has already been decreed. It is the bold stance of one who knows the battle has already been won in the unseen realms and is now simply awaiting the manifestation on the earthly plane. This active readiness is like a spring uncoiling, a ship setting sail, or a seed bursting forth from the soil with an undeniable internal certainty of its purpose. It's the sacred whisper in your spirit that says, "It is finished," even as your eyes still perceive the unfolding of the process. You are no longer merely hoping, you are knowing. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are operating from position. This shift in posture unlocks the very pathways for the divine to move, creating an energetic current that pulls the future into the present. It's a dynamic alignment, not a static expectation. Think about what happened with Elijah on Mount Carmel. The land was parched, cracked and thirsty, a testament to years of drought, a consequence of spiritual rebellion. The skies were a relentless, unforgiving blue, mocking any hope of rain. There was no meteorological indication, no changing atmospheric pressure, no whisper of a breeze carrying the scent of moisture. Before the rain came, before a single cloud formed in the sky, before there was any natural evidence that anything was about to change, Elijah told Ahab to get up and eat because he could hear the sound of an abundance of rain. He heard it before it existed in the natural. He heard it in the spirit. Imagine the sheer audacity, the unwavering conviction in his voice as he declared this in the midst of a barren landscape, to a king accustomed to false prophets and empty promises. He stood as a lone conduit of divine revelation, tuning his spiritual ears to a frequency beyond human comprehension. And that hearing, that willingness to declare what had not yet arrived, was not arrogance. It was alignment. It was a profound attunement to the heart and will of God. He was not speaking something into existence from thin air, conjuring a reality out of nothingness. He was agreeing out loud with what heaven had already decided, simply echoing the divine decree that had already been established in the spiritual courts. He was acting as a divine witness, testifying to a truth that was already in motion. And then he went and prayed 7 times, each prayer a deeper anchoring, a further declaration of faith, a persistent knocking on the door of heaven. It wasn't a desperate plea, but a rhythmic, confident summons. And on the 7th time, a cloud the size of a man's hand appeared on the horizon, a distant whisper on the edge of vision. That small cloud was enough. It was a punctuation mark in the vast, empty sky, a prophetic preview, a tangible sign of an invisible certainty. Because Elijah knew what it was the beginning of. He saw not just a cloud, but the breaking of a drought, the torrent that would quench the thirst of a nation, the divine vindication of God's power. His spiritual sight magnified the small into the significant. You are standing at your cloud the size of a man's hand moment. This tiny flicker of hope, this nascent manifestation, this first undeniable ripple in the calm surface of your waiting. What is visible right now may look small. It may look insignificant, hardly worth mentioning. It may not look like the fullness of what was promised, perhaps only a faint outline, a shadow of the coming glory. But the question is not whether you can see the whole sky yet, bathed in the thunder and lightning of breakthrough. The question is whether you recognize what that small movement means, whether your spiritual discernment is sharp enough to perceive the seed of destiny. Because the enemy, with his cunning whispers, will use the smallness of the beginning to talk you out of the magnitude of the ending. He will point at that fragile cloud and say, "That is all there is," a fleeting anomaly that will dissipate into nothingness. He will tell you not to get your hopes up, to temper your expectations, to protect yourself from inevitable disappointment. He will dress discouragement in the deceptive language of wisdom and tell you to be realistic, to come back down to earth, to settle for less than what your heart truly desires. He will argue for the limitations of your senses, challenging the conviction of your spirit. He wants you to dismiss the first drop as merely a splash, instead of recognizing it as the foretaste of a deluge. But you were never called to be realistic. You were called to be faithful to what you heard. Realistic is the language of the fallen world. Faithful is the dialect of the kingdom. Your calling transcends the logical confines of the natural realm. Your mandate is rooted in a deeper truth, a higher reality, the unshakable word that resonated in your spirit. And what you heard was not a rumor, a fleeting thought, or a figment of your imagination. What you heard came from the same voice that spoke light into darkness, commanding existence where there was only void. The same voice that called things that were not as though they were, conjuring stars and galaxies into being with but a word. The same voice that has been speaking over your life since before you had a name, weaving your destiny into the fabric of time and eternity. This is the voice of your Creator, the architect of your purpose, and His word does not return to Him void. It carries the power of its own fulfillment. Now here is where it goes deeper, because there is something happening beneath the surface of your situation that you need to understand before the door fully opens, before the floodgates of blessing are entirely released. The enemy knows that if he cannot stop the blessing, if he cannot outright cancel what God has decreed for your life, his next, equally insidious strategy is to corrupt the posture you receive it in. He does not need to cancel what is coming, he simply needs to taint it. He just needs to make sure that when it arrives, you receive it through the wrong filter, a distorted lens that diminishes its power and joy, through a filter of fear, causing you to constantly anticipate its withdrawal or decay, through a filter of unworthiness, making you believe you don't truly deserve it, thus preventing you from fully owning it, through a filter that says, "This is too good to be true, this cannot last, something will inevitably go wrong," thus keeping you in a state of perpetual anxiety and suspicion. These filters are not just minor inconveniences, they are spiritual toxins designed to neutralize the very good heaven intends. Because a blessing received through fear becomes a burden, a heavy weight on your shoulders, constantly threatening to crush you rather than lift you. What was meant to be freedom becomes a new source of captivity, a treasure you are terrified of losing. A door walked through in panic becomes a prison, its open threshold transforming into bars, because your apprehension prevents you from stepping into the expansive freedom beyond. You enter, but your heart remains locked in the previous season of constriction. And a season of favor entered without identity, without a firm grasp of who you are in Christ, will inevitably be sabotaged by the very person it was given to, yourself. For without a clear understanding of your divine appointment, you will mismanage, misuse, or even destroy the very gifts intended to propel you forward. This is what happened with Saul. He was chosen, plucked from obscurity, anointed by the prophet Samuel with oil that signified divine appointment. He was positioned as the first king of Israel, given a powerful mandate and an extraordinary opportunity to lead God's people. But he never fully accepted what he was called to be. His foundation was shaky, rooted in insecurity rather than divine affirmation. He kept comparing himself to others, particularly the formidable David, allowing external perceptions to dictate his internal state. He kept performing for the crowd, seeking their approval and validation, instead of standing firmly in his assignment, secure in the identity God had bestowed upon him. He was a king who wore his crown for the applause, not for the calling. And the moment David arrived, a young shepherd boy whose star began to rise, the moment the favor he had been given started to look like it was shifting towards someone else, fear became his compass. This primal fear, this gnawing insecurity, steered every decision, poisoned every relationship, and corrupted his very soul. And a king with fear as his compass becomes a tyrant, lashing out at perceived threats, manipulating circumstances, and eventually seeking to destroy the very person destined to carry the next phase of God's plan. Not because the calling was removed by God, but because identity was never established in Saul's heart. He never truly believed he was worthy of the crown, and thus he became enslaved to the opinions of others, losing sight of the divine decree over his life. His fear created a self-fulfilling prophecy of his own downfall. So before this open door becomes everything it is supposed to be, before you fully step into the expansive landscape of your promised land, heaven is asking you to do something that feels counterintuitive, something that goes against the grain of societal norms and perhaps even your long-held coping mechanisms. Heaven is asking you to stop shrinking, to stop making yourself smaller, quieter, less noticeable, less brilliant, in an attempt to fit into molds that were never meant for you, to stop pre-apologizing for what is about to be on your life, for the blessings, the favor, the opportunities, the anointing that will undeniably set you apart. To stop managing other people's comfort with the grander, more authentic, more powerful version of you that is emerging. You have spent too long dimming your light, tucking away your gifts, holding back your voice so the people around you would not feel the weight of what you are carrying, so they wouldn't feel overshadowed or uncomfortable by your ascent. You've walked on eggshells of your own making, fearful of the repercussions of your own blooming. And God is saying that is over now. The season of suppression is ended. It is time to stand in your full stature, to occupy the space you were divinely ordained to fill. You were not anointed to fit in the room. You were anointed to change the atmosphere of the room. You are not meant to blend in with the existing decor. You are the catalyst for transformation, the aroma of Christ, the light that pierces through the shadows. Your very presence is designed to shift the spiritual temperature, to challenge the status quo, to introduce a divine frequency. Embrace the glorious disruption that is your anointing. And what is coming next? Stay with me, because this is the part most people are not prepared for, the truth that often causes a quiet discomfort. What is coming next is not just a blessing, it is an exposure. What God is about to bring into your life, whether it be wealth, influence, new relationships, or expanded platforms, is also going to reveal what is in your heart. It will shine a powerful divine spotlight on your motives, your hidden beliefs, your unhealed wounds, and the true condition of your spirit. And that is not a threat. That is a gift, a profound act of divine grace, because you cannot carry what is coming, the weight and magnitude of the new assignment, with the limiting beliefs, unaddressed fears, and unexamined motives you have been holding. The capacity has to expand before the blessing arrives, or the blessing arrives and has nowhere to go, like water hitting a closed vessel, spilling out and becoming wasted. This exposure is God's gentle yet firm way of preparing you not just for the blessing, but for the sustained stewardship of it. It's an invitation to introspection, a divine cleansing that makes space for greater glory. Think of the widow with the oil in 2 Kings, a poignant example of this principle. She was at the brink of despair, facing destitution, her sons about to be taken as slaves. Elisha did not bring the oil from some external source or miraculously conjure it from thin air. He asked her what she had in her house, directing her gaze inward, challenging her perception of her own scarcity. And she had almost nothing, only a small jar of oil, a seemingly meager resource, barely enough to sustain her for another day. But he told her to gather vessels, empty ones, as many as she could find. This was the critical instruction, the expansion of expectation, the preparation of space. Not just a few, but as many as you can find, pushing her beyond her perceived limits. And then he told her to pour. This was the act of obedience, the step of faith into the unknown. And the oil did not multiply while she was just contemplating. It did not multiply while she was gathering the vessels, although that was a necessary preliminary step. It did not multiply while she was planning or strategizing. It multiplied in the very act of pouring, in the dynamic movement of faith. And it kept multiplying, flowing supernaturally until she ran out of vessels to fill, until her capacity for reception was exhausted. The vessels in that story are not just physical containers. They are a powerful metaphor for your capacity. They are your expectations, the spiritual containers you bring to God. They are the size of what you are willing to believe for, the breadth of your imagination when it comes to divine provision. And what heaven is saying to you right now is that it is time to gather more vessels. It is time to expand what you are expecting, to break open the hardened soil of limiting beliefs and allow the seeds of abundant faith to take root. Because the oil is not going to run out, God's supply is infinite, His generosity boundless, His wellspring inexhaustible. The only thing that will stop the flow, the only constraint on the miraculous, is a shortage of vessels. It is the self-imposed limit on what you are prepared to receive. Your limitation is not God's willingness. Your limitation is the size of the container you have been asking Him to fill. He is not constrained by your circumstances. He is constrained only by the boundaries of your belief and the capacity you create to receive. Now, once that shifts in you, and it is shifting right now as you hear this, a subtle reorientation in your spirit, a loosening of old chains, there is something else that has to happen. And this is where the real turning point lives, because most people get agonizingly close to breakthrough and then pull back right here at the precipice of their greatest reward. They get close enough to smell the promise, to almost taste the victory, to feel the warmth of the breakthrough sun on their skin, and then they disqualify themselves at the threshold. They conjure reasons to pause, to delay, to retreat from the very thing they've longed for. They say things like, "I am almost there," or "I just need a little more time to prepare," or "maybe next season." And those sentences sound like wisdom. They carry the deceptive veneer of prudence and humility. But they are fear with a vocabulary upgrade, sophisticated rationalizations that mask a deeper reluctance to fully step into the unknown magnitude of God's plan. They are procrastination dressed in pious language, a self-imposed prison of perpetual preparation. They are the enemy's final, most subtle tactic to keep you from crossing over. Coming up in just a moment, there is a hidden agreement you have been living under that sounds like faith, but has been functioning as a ceiling, a transparent barrier that has kept certain blessings circling just above your reach. And once you see it, once you expose it to the light of truth, You will understand why certain things have been circling but not landing, why breakthroughs felt imminent but never quite materialized. But first, this has to land fully, deeply, irrevocably within your spirit. You have been treating your preparation as incomplete, as an unending process that always requires one more step, one more lesson, one more refinement. You have been living in a perpetual state of almost ready, holding your breath on the threshold, never quite exhaling into the fullness of the moment. And what God is asking you to confront, with unflinching honesty, is this. At what point does preparation become an excuse not to step forward? At what point does the refining season, meant to shape and strengthen you, become a comfortable hiding place, a spiritual bunker where you feel safe from the demands of your calling? Because Moses spent 40 years in the desert being prepared, tending sheep, encountering the mundane, stripping away the Egyptian prince from his identity. But there was a moment when the burning bush appeared, blazing with divine fire, and God said, "Now." Not in a few more years after you've accumulated more wisdom, not when you feel more confident, when every shred of doubt has vanished. Now. And Moses still argued, still tried to reason with the Almighty. He still said, "Who am I to go?" He still tried to disqualify himself from his own assignment, pointing to his perceived inadequacies and lack of eloquence. He leaned on human logic in the face of divine command. But heaven does not wait for you to feel qualified. Heaven waits for you to say yes, a resounding, unequivocal affirmation to the divine invitation, even if your knees are knocking and your voice trembles. Your feeling of readiness is not the prerequisite. Your obedience is. And you have been saying yes in pieces, fragmented affirmations scattered across your journey, quietly, in the dark, in prayers that felt like they dissolved into the ceiling, unheard and unacknowledged. These were silent commitments, whispered longings, tentative acts of surrender. But what you did not see, what you could not perceive from your earthly vantage point, was that heaven was collecting every one of those broken yeses, every hesitant nod, every tearful agreement. They were being gathered, pieced together, assembled into the single powerful moment of completion that sealed your breakthrough. And that moment has already passed. You are already on the other side of it without realizing it, like crossing an invisible finish line. The declaration has been made. The curtain has fallen on the previous act. What you are walking into now is not the trial, it is not the preparation, it is not the wilderness. What you are walking into is the land, the promised inheritance, the season of fruitfulness and manifestation. The wilderness served its purpose, the preparation has run its course. This is the crossing over, the beginning of your occupation. And here is the part no one wants to hear, because it is the part that requires the deepest confrontation with yourself, a raw honesty that peels back layers of self-protection, the part that most people reach and quietly click away from, shifting their gaze, because it is too precise, too piercing to sit with comfortably. It challenges the very narratives we've constructed around our struggles. The thing that has been blocking the full manifestation of what God promised is not the enemy's assignment against you, though his attacks were real. It is not the betrayals you experienced, though the pain was undeniable. It is not the doors that closed, or the people who left, or the seasons that stretched far longer than they were supposed to. Those things were real. Those things were hard. They shaped you, refined you, perhaps even brought you to your knees. But they were not the block. They were obstacles, yes, but not the ultimate impediment. The block has been this. You have been believing God for the promise while simultaneously believing that you are the exception. This is the insidious, deeply rooted lie that has held you captive. You believe that God does this for people. You believe the testimonies you hear from others, the miraculous stories of healing, provision, and breakthrough. You believe the scripture, affirming its truth and power. You believe that breakthrough is real, and that divine favor is real, and that God moves in supernatural ways, intervening in the affairs of humanity. You believe all of it for everyone else, for the righteous, for the chosen, for the special ones. But somewhere, deep beneath all of that outward faith, beneath the layers of intellectual assent, there is a quiet, hidden agreement, a subconscious contract you've signed with doubt, that says people like you do not get the full version. That something in your story, your past mistakes, your perceived flaws, your unique struggles, your personal history of disappointment, makes you the asterisk, the fine print, the almost but not quite, the one for whom the general rule of God's favor has a specific, limiting exception. And that agreement has been functioning as a spiritual ceiling, an invisible barrier just above your head, allowing blessings to circle but never fully land. Not because God agreed with it, He never did. He never signed that contract of limitation, but because you kept signing it, implicitly affirming it every time something did not come through on your timeline, every time a prayer felt unanswered, every time you watched someone else step into something you had been believing for, achieving what felt perpetually out of your reach. You took that as confirmation of the lie, a validation of your exception status, instead of recognizing it as a test of whether you would hold your position, whether you would remain steadfast in the face of delayed gratification and apparent contradiction. Consider Elijah again, post Mount Carmel. He had just called down fire from heaven, seen the dramatic demonstration of divine power, witnessed the defeat of 450 prophets of Baal. He had heard the sound of rain, prophesied its coming, and seen the small cloud become a deluge. He had experienced the most dramatic, undeniable display of God's intervention in his generation. And then Jezebel, a single human queen, sent one threat, a chilling message of impending death. And he ran. He ran and collapsed under a juniper tree, consumed by fear and despair, and said, "It is enough." He said, "I am the only one left," believing the lie of isolation and self-pity right in the middle of his greatest victory, after proving God's power to an entire nation. He too felt like the exception, singled out for persecution, exhausted and alone. And God did not rebuke him. God did not scold him for his fear or his lapse in faith. God fed him. God let him sleep. He provided sustenance and rest for a weary soul. And then, after he was nourished and restored, God said, "The journey is too great for you. Get up and eat again." He implied that the journey ahead, the next phase of his calling, required a strength and a spirit that the current, depleted version of Elijah simply did not possess. The journey ahead is too great for the version of you that has been running on fear and isolation and the quiet belief that you are the exception to the promise. You cannot step into the magnitude of what is coming with the baggage of unworthiness and doubt, but you are not being asked to do this on the strength you have been operating from, the strength that has been fighting against these hidden agreements. You are being asked to eat, to receive, to let something in, to be divinely nourished and restored before you try to go anywhere else, before you attempt to carry the weight of the new season. This is not about self-effort. It is about divine infusion. Because what is about to walk into your life is going to require a version of you that has been fed, deeply satisfied and sustained by the bread of life and the living water. That has been restored, healed from the internal wounds and the lies that have chipped away at your identity. That has stopped running from your true self and started receiving the fullness of God's love and acceptance. And the receiving begins right here, in this sacred, pivotal moment. It begins in this moment where you finally stop treating yourself as the exception, finally rip up that hidden agreement of limitation and accept that everything God said, every promise, every decree, every word of hope and destiny He said it to you. Not around you, not near you, but directly, personally, intimately, to you. You are the intended recipient. This is the verdict. This is the decree that has been read over your life in the courts of heaven, stamped with divine authority and irrevocable truth. And now you are hearing it on earth so that what is bound above can be loosed below, so that the spiritual reality can finally manifest in your physical experience. This is the breaking of the spiritual ceiling. This is the opening of the floodgates. The assignment against you is cancelled. Every diabolical plot, every scheme designed to hinder, to steal, to destroy, is now null and void. The delay is expired, its season has run its course, and the waiting room is now empty. The silence has ended, and a new sound is emerging, a symphony of breakthrough and restoration. And what is walking toward you right now has your name on it. Not someone else's, not a blessing meant for another, but tailor-made for you. Not a version of you that does not exist yet, a perfected future self, but your name. As you are, today, in this moment. You are ready. You are worthy. Now place your hand on your chest and speak this out loud, because declarations are not just emotional exercises, they are spiritual coordinates. They are signposts in the unseen realm, active commands that tell heaven exactly where you are standing and what you are agreeing with, aligning your earthly reality with the divine. And what you are about to agree with is not a wish. It is not a prayer asking for something you do not have. It is a declaration of what has already been decreed, a powerful affirmation of an established truth. Speak this now. I am not the exception. I am the chosen one this message was sent to. Every prayer I have prayed in private has been collected, and nothing has been wasted. The silence I walked through was not abandonment, it was preparation. The restraint I showed was not weakness. It was the final act that sealed my breakthrough. I release every agreement that said I was too late, too flawed, or too far behind. I release every ceiling I built from disappointment. I step into this season fully, without apology, without shrinking, without waiting for permission that has already been given. The door is open. I walk through it now. What God has declared over my life cannot be reversed, cannot be stolen, and cannot be delayed beyond this moment. I receive it, all of it. I am ready, and I am enough. If this message has spoken to something in you that needed to be spoken to, if you felt something shift while you were reading or listening, even if you cannot fully name it yet, do not let that feeling dissolve into the noise of the rest of your day. That feeling is information. It is confirmation. Share this with someone who is also standing in the gap between what was and what was promised, because they did not find it by accident either. And leave something in the comments, not for the algorithm, but as a declaration. Tell God you received this. Tell the enemy you saw through the lie. That act of acknowledgement is part of the sealing. Do not skip it.